Let's fast forward it. There we go. All right, welcome to another edition of the Mexican Soccer Show. Sorry about that. We're already running late, and that whole thing took like 20 other seconds. So we're jumping right in because we want.
You made that video,
time.
man.
I know. It's because we're normally we get that in there. So, welcoming Amy, who's usually behind the scenes in our productions, but she was called up to tell us what to do get mad at me, se enoja on live air television, and she can tell me right there. And obviously, Mr. Carlos Yustis, you see him all over Telemundo, flying to get frozen all over. And I'm glad that you're on, brother. So first saying hi to you, Amy, there in LA, in great LA. Hawthorne.
What's up? Also, half of the reason is because you ignore my messages when I'm sending them to you through production. I'm like, Wiso, fix your mic.
It's hard. There's a chat up here. There's messages.
No, it's true.
Here.
It's true. Wiso's the worst multitasker in the history of multitasking. No, it's probably like second worst, but still pretty high up there, especially when he's like in the zone for something. So half of the reason.
I tell you right, I can't do things. Sorry, anyways.
No, men can't do things apparently at the same time.
We cannot. Giovanna Aula saying hello. She was already on even before we started. She's like, hey, it's 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock.
Where are you?
She's like,
I'm here. Where are you?
Yeah. Say hello. We already got that. But Carlos, welcome. How's it going?
It's good. It's finishing off a couple of projects with baseball, especially here in the Bay Area. Now we're halfway through the season with the 49ers. So, things piling up on top of having a baby soon.
Man. So right now you obviously call for Chivas. Well, not anymore because they're gone, but you don't normally do that. Telemundo, you went to Canada, right, to go freeze your butt off. And I was in my little nice bed, seriously, just listening to you guys just freeze. And I didn't get to go, but man, it was. I think it's still, even though we lost, I think it was a historic game to be at. So it's awesome that you went. And then 49ers, which all the things that you do with the 49ers, the call, right, in Espanol, with the NFL. I see you with the earthquakes.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
The earthquakes and MLB. This is news to me.
Well, we finished with the Giants, and now we're gearing up also Warrior season. We were actually on Friday for the game against the Phoenix Suns.
And you're doing basketball too.
Yeah.
All right. Renaissance man, Carlos. we have here. Well, so glad that you're on. We can chat all about today. We're gonna chat about the logo. I know there's a lot that have been said, but I want to hear your takes, especially on the logo, and see what give us a little insights on. Obviously, it's here and it's going to be here for a long time. And talk Mexico with big game that's coming on Wednesday. I say big because I'm excited for this game regarding the players. Everyone's talking about Marcelo Flores. We'll talk about that, and then we will talk about Liguilla, León, and Atlas. I think it's going to be a great final just because, Atlas might have a chance. And so all the people, no more Tigres, América, Chivas, all those popular teams went out, Pumas coming in. We'll talk about the penal call. Saying hello to Joey Carrasco, who's excited for Marcelo Flores time, Acevedo time, Julian Araujo time. Yeah, you are right. We'll see. Hola. Cool. Fernando saying saludos, banda. Saludos, banda. Here we go. No, well, so right here. Hola. So we get saludos, banda. Yeah, there it is. All right. So let's jump right in and talk about first thing. First thing is the logo. All right. I always talk about logos, and every time they come in, when I first see something like this, it's kind of hard to like it right away, right? It's different. It's something odd. But Carlos, I've seen obviously in your social media, you've kind of said that I think your official's like, hey, it's not like I'm not 100% on it, but it's a logo that needed to be done.
Yeah, I particularly don't like it, but I don't like it not because it's a bad logo. I don't like it because me personally, as my taste, I like things that are a little more symmetrical. So, for example, the wing going out of the circle, that kind of bothers me a little bit, but that has nothing to do with the logo being bad. That's just something that my taste of design, of art, will not be my preference. So that's the problem I have with it. But overall, and especially also because I think the design they did on the eagle, even though it's modern, it kind of reminds me a lot of the African eagles, like whether it's for Egypt or maybe for Algeria. Like it kind of reminds me of that kind of, like Egyptian bird. more than the Mayan Aztec that they were trying to go for. So that's the two things that I have against it. But I don't think it's a bad logo. And then at the end of the day, the other one was very convoluted, and that was kind of like what my take on social media was, that the federation had been looking for something that was easier to reproduce, because now with the new materials and new designs, because we look at these things like these jackets from 2003, and these kind of patches are not very friendly with the new materials, especially because they're trying to sell you the idea that every day the everything's lighter, right? The jerseys are lighter, the material that they use, the jerseys is lighter. So to put something like that it has a lot of detail, it's a lot more work, and it makes it more expensive. And at the end of the day, they got to maximize their profits, because, at the end of the day, it's product that they're pushing out. Maybe they could do something that is really convoluted for the ones that the team wears, but then when you have to mass produce it, because at the end of the day, it's a product, if you have to up the amount of money that you're spending on these things just to create it, it's a problem. And the same goes with little applications. It was really hard to make it in little applications. Like, that's why you never saw the logo on socks, for example. Like, even on the national team socks, they usually went with the FMF, or they went with something else, because it was really hard to apply it. Same for pins, pens, that kind of stuff. There's a lot of ink and colors involved. It was not very friendly when it was monochromatic. You saw it usually, for example, the black jerseys that we had in the recent years, the one that had like the Aztec thing kind of last year, that was that monochromatic white with black, didn't kind of like, shine the same way. So all those things pushed the federation to say, we need to, modernize it, do something cleaner. And they went with that. So it is going to be a lot more functional. It's going to be able to be put in a lot more stuff. But at the end of the day, like I said, like in my personal taste, I think if the wing was closer to the wing that we see on the national, like the actual shield of the flag, if it was backwards, I think I would be all on it.
I think that's almost everybody that I talk to that's like, okay, look, there's people that are like, I hate it. I don't like it. I like the old one. We should keep the old one. And I'm like, okay, but you've seen that we needed to change. The Eagles, I have a problem with. I feel it's not, again, kind of like you, it's not necessarily very Mexico, but more like it. I don't necessarily see an eagle. Like, I don't, doesn't scream eagle to me. But when I did see like somebody, I forget who it was, somebody kind of redid it to like a very menacing like eagle. It reminded me a lot of like America and Las Águilas. So then I'm like, okay, well, maybe they didn't want to make it too eagle, because then it's going to be like, the conspiracy, ahí está la América y Televisa and all that. So I think it's growing on me, especially when I saw it, for example, I think on the gates at the Federación already. I mean, when it's kind of highlighted on there, and I'm showing it right now, I thought that looked kind of cool. I saw it a couple of applications already, I think on a Banorte card, and I was like, okay, it's not horrible, and it's going to grow on me, and it's going to be fine, and we'll see. Amy, to you, you're officially, do you like it? I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you not like it? You're cool with it?
When they finished doing their whatever that show was, and then they like changed, they changed their. It's just like, I've been watching Dancing with the Stars far too many seasons now, that the lack of synchronicity and all that. I was just like, I was just like, there's just, where's
I'm
the
disappointed
story?
on the dancing, not the logo.
I was in a very real way. I was like, as a viewer, I was like, what experience am I getting here in this moment? And then like the writing, when they try to synchronize like Pasión and Orgullo, the G and the R together, and it really bothered me and stuff, so little things. But anyway, once that whole thing came about and they switched over their social, right? Because obviously they do an announcement, they schedule it, they put this one. I didn't really like this one at first. Like, it felt very plain to me. I was like, I mean, I didn't mind the logo. I just didn't like the overall color aesthetics that they had chosen for it. But then same thing, somebody posted this one and I was like, okay, I can see this one working. And then they changed again all their assets online to like this green aesthetic. And I really like this one. Like, I really, really like the way it all like works and fits together. So I think after like the initial like shock of the presentation and everything, I was like, that's fine. Besides, I'm gonna buy the shirt at the end of the day, so I don't really care.
Well, it all depends, and I guess that's the biggest. To me, that's the biggest thing. Once the green jersey, the green jersey comes back, and you have that green, white, and red socks. I don't really think people are gonna focus so much on the badge as it is on the actual shirt or like the design of the shirt, because then we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
And then to me, it's always what they're gonna do with the away jerseys. I mean, for the away jersey for the World Cup, now we know that it's gonna be that off-white color with black. So this kind of interpretation is a lot easier to make it all black, and it will actually look better. And if they decide to, there's also the rumor that for the centenario of the Mexican national team, which is in 2023, they're gonna go with that guinda color, and that most likely will have a navy badge, and the navy badge will also look like, shine a little better. So I think that's the advantage that you have with this one. It will just, on the application, it will look a lot cleaner.
Yeah.
Instead of seeing like, is this patch posted on no matter what color the shirt was.
Yeah, and I mean, we've done, especially with the logos, with videos, right? We've edited some stuff in production with some of the brands with TMJ, and we had to put the little video, the official logo on backgrounds, and it didn't see it. I mean, literally emailing like, we can't put anything on there because the logo is not transparent, and you can't change the logo because it's an official logo. So it was always kind of hard to work with, especially on a production.
Although I will say, I mean, it's growing on me, and I won't mind it at the end of the day if it's on the jersey and whatever they come up with. But when they started putting their new, what is the word? Through the ends, putting like new announcements and stuff, right? With the new logo, I'm like, I don't really
looks
love
weird.
how it's looking right now. Yeah, but it'll grow on me.
That's the first time I saw it. I saw it on like Mexico, Chile on the TUDN whenever, and I was like, oh man, it's there. Okay.
It's official.
Carlos, a question. Is the FMF keeping the other logo?
No, this is the official.
This is the official logo, or they just haven't updated the website then?
They probably haven't updated the website. That's going to be the official federation logo, because now they don't change that.
Because it was, the FMF and Federación, and it always had it, and then it went to Pasión Orgullo on the actual, logo. Now it just says Selección de México.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think in 2016 it switched to Selección Mexicana. It said Selección Mexicana de Fútbol instead of, and then they put the Pasión Orgullo like a couple of years ago. There's very minimal thing that's been changing, but since 1983, that's when they actually adopted the federation logo as part of the shirt. I feel like before that, because really the 80s was when soccer got a little more professional overall in the whole world. I mean, there's certain other federations that always had it, like Brazil, for example, has been using the badge since in the 50s to 60s, when they really designed the verde amarela, right? I think that's when they did it. But overall in Mexico, since 83 is the first time we ever saw the actual federation logo on the shirt.
Yeah. All right, well, we'll see it. I always said ever since I was younger, I don't have any tattoos, and like I'm really, I don't know what I want to tattoo. Like, I think it'd be really cool to have a tattoo. I just don't know. Like every 10 years ago, I want this, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that was really stupid. Dude, I'm so glad I didn't get that. But one thing's always constant. I'm like, if Mexico ever won a World Cup,
whatever.
I was like, I'll put like the actual Mexico crest with a little star on my like chest. That's always been since I was younger. I can't do that now because if you're gonna change logos, it's gonna look really outdated. So that's gone too. So there you go. Good thing they didn't win a World Cup, because then I'd be like, I need you to update this, please.
You could put the eagle from the flag. That's never gonna change, assuming they don't rebrand the flag.
Like the Hecho en Mexico or
super Mexican.
It's a little too much. I was getting like, how like the cool Olympic logo or whatever. I'm like, hey, we won the Olympics, but then you didn't go to the Olympics. Nah, I don't know. So no, I'm not getting a tattoo anytime soon. Maybe if we win the World Cup, I'll get Marcelo Flores holding it or something like that when we see that. Let's talk about Marcelo Flores. They're finally, right? We've been waiting for this convocatoria. Obviously, before about a week ago, there was rumors of Marcelo Flores coming in and being called. It looked like Tata listened to all of us on Twitter, right? Saying we want new players and younger players, and it's not working. He's like, I got you guys. I got you. There's a game in Austin, and I'll call everybody. Acevedo's there, Julian Araujo, Efrain Alvarez. I mean, everybody's there that we kind of want to be there. So let me give you guys the convocatoria. I don't know if you're able to see it, but here it is. It came out today, and excited about this game, even though it's not a FIFA day. But these are the types of games where people say, hey, these games are worth it because we're able to see some of these players. Not only that, it's this specific game. Marcelo Flores is able to play, and he plays, it's going to be really hard for him to go to another national team because he has to do a one-time switch. So, Carlos, to you, notable players that are there. What do you like about this lineup? Is there anybody that you wish wasn't there? How are your overall thoughts?
No, I actually like everybody. I mean, obviously having Talavera to me, it's just kind of like anchoring that.
Yeah.
I don't think there's another like younger goalkeeper, but having Malagon and Acevedo, I think it's
Mhm.
the right call. Those are the
Somebody said
youngest.
David Ochoa, but
Again, I have my reservations with David Ochoa. I know he wanted to make the switch, and he's there, and he had a decent amount of playing time with Real Salt Lake. But I think Acevedo and Malagon are over him
yeah, for sure.
by a lot, at least right now. The rest of the players, I really like who he's calling. I mean, I overall, and that's another thing that I always thought with Tata. Like, there's a lot of criticism of, because he takes this, he takes that. The first thing is that when you're playing a qualifier, you cannot make experiments there.
Hmm.
And I always said it. You can have a player that is really good, whoever it is. I'm not gonna like throw a name there, but for example, like when they complain about who doesn't go on right back, it's like, yes, there might be someone that plays on right back, but even if Chaka doesn't give you more or less, Tata knows exactly why he gives him, and where he can actually have problems, and you try to kind of like move around for that. But you cannot bring somebody who's not proven to play a really like important match, and then you actually, as we say in even in show business, like no lo vas a quemar. Because if you burn a kid, if you bring a 19-year-old and all of a sudden he needs to mark Alfonso Davies, and Alfonso Davies runs by him 4 times and they score 2 goals, he's never going to get called again. And you're like, he's 19 years old. Why would you do that to him? So to me, that's the first thing of why you don't see these players on the qualifiers. But what this roster tells me, and the past roster that also was full of young players that he called for the other non-FIFA date, shows me that they're paying attention. Like the scouting team and Tata's group and Tata are actually paying attention to who should be on this team and who's the next blood. And I also, another thing that I really like is that he has a lot of players that went to the Olympics. To me, that's a normal progression. You need to have 5-6 players that went to the Olympics. And you see in there is Alan Cervantes is there, Ferni Beltran, Uriel Antuna, Cordova. Like there's a lot of players that were on that team. I particularly like the call from Luis Olivas, and not because I call Chivas every week, but I feel that Olivas, since he came up, because let's also remember, Olivas is 19 years old, like 20 years old. So Luis Olivas came out of nowhere just to take the spot of 2 players that have been there, with minutes, and he started doing very well. Overall, the team is not cohesive, but he actually, I think, to me, was one of the shining spots in Chivas. Unfortunately, he's a central defender, and he's not gonna he's not gonna score like tons of goals, and you're really not gonna notice him. But having him there, having Marcelo, Galdames, and being able to captize some of these kids that are potential, call-ups for the future. Because that's the other thing. Like, I feel like a lot of people put a lot of pressure in Marcelo. Marcelo is a U23 player from Arsenal. He hasn't even broke on the first division team. And we've done this before. We've done it with Carlos Vela. We did it with Giovanni Dos Santos. We did it with Cesar Villaluz. We try to bring these kids when they were 17, 18 years old and make it a solution. And it didn't work. And it happened in the club level. Carlos Fierro was called up to be the next Chicharito just because he won a U17 World Cup. And he's a 16-year-old trying to play against a defender that is 29 years old. And all of a sudden, he didn't score 25 goals like he was doing in the U17s. And they're like, oh, he sucks. It's like, he's 16 years old. You didn't let him that process of making it to a more mature player. And I'm talking about making mature players at 20 years old.
Yeah.
Not at 25, not at 27. When you're called up so young, when you're 16, 17, 18, 19, you're still on a development process. So for me to have a player that could actually give you minutes and actually be a solution when he's 21, 22, 23, you're actually looking at the future because that player is going to be there for a while.
And I think that's where people kind of go, well, we see other, we see the U.S. doing it. Look at what Pepe is done. We've seen other national teams. Look, this guy's 17, this guy's 18. But again, they've at least played professionally and in a league, and they've had some minutes, and they've proven themselves.
And there's a big thing there. For example, I think Pepe, in the case of Pepe, for example, I think Pepe is not ready to be the senior striker for the men's national team, the U.S., but Gio Reyna is ready to be the main player of that national team. But we don't have, at least I haven't seen him. We don't have a player with that quality. You see it with Gavi. Like, we're always putting examples of extraordinary players that we actually don't have. We don't have we don't have a Kylian Mbappe. We don't have a Neymar. Like, we don't have that caliber of player. So for us to actually put all that weight on one of our kids that could potentially be a really good player, but it's not a world-class leader, I think it's a little unfair too.
Yeah. Amy, to you, how do you feel about this young squad? And I was trying to do the math on the average age, and then Talavera came in, and I gave up. So I'm going LA Galaxy. Hey, your boy.
Yeah, that was a like the Crest, a not so well kept secret. I mean, there was speculation, but you kind of assumed at that point that they were going to do it. I mean, there were even arguments with depending on how David Ochoa, of course, depending on the options that he was gonna pick, could potentially also make the call up. But he's not. He didn't, and it's not the end of the world that he didn't. But I am interested to see how much playing time from a Galaxy perspective Efrain and Julian get. And how they'll look in comparison to some of the other players that either just got eliminated from Liguilla or anything like that, because they've been off now, give or take. I can't even remember when was the last time I was really mad. But it's been a while. It's been a few weeks at this point, you know. So it is going to impact them in a way. But if they both have decent moments, especially for Araujo, because we already know Efrain on an international level at this point and on a club level, for Julian to make their transition, have this moment to shine, is going to be interesting to see in that regard. But for Cordova too, didn't have such a good Liguilla. Obviously got eliminated, and Tuna as well. But it'll be fun. I think this will be a fun game. Like we mentioned before, there's a lot of speculation on, you know, this game being played and what was going to happen. But now that we have these kinds of players, and for Acevedo, I mean, I'm interested to see, like we're saying, Talavera's more there for leadership position, or is he going to actually be the one that plays, which would kind of suck. You know, I would love to see Acevedo get some minutes. But it'll be fun to actually.
In the Charlotte, we were there. I don't remember who the keeper was. Dun, dun, dun. I'm with you guys. I want to see Acevedo. Everybody's been calling Acevedo. The reason why he hasn't been called before was because of injuries. Now he's back. He's ready to go.
Fabian said Galaxy last played on November 7th. So yeah, so it's been some time, and I think they went on. I think they went on vacation if I remember correctly, like a week and a half after that, or like 2 weeks. So it's not been like too much time, but it's still some time to not have action for their side.
They played that game we were talking about. It was against Ecuador in October 27. Mm-hmm. That was the last time he had.
But who was the goalie?
Jonathan Orozco.
Okay. But he brought 3 goalies that he didn't bring anybody that. Yeah. So I think Tata will bring out I think Acevedo, and hopefully give him the 90 minutes and see what he does. Obviously I want to say rumors or the talked about him going to Leverkusen, which we'll see if that pans out.
Apparently, he got shot, wasn't it? What didn't Leverkusen come out and say like, no, we're not?
I think it happens all the time where they don't want necessarily they are coming out unless it's officials with clubs. But
also, I buried the lead. Arsenal blood on the Mexican national team again. You love to see it. I just love the fact that a verified Arsenal account. What are you talking about, man? A verified Arsenal account. No, the Arsenal Academy verified account said, by the way, Marcelo has been called up to that national team duty. I was like,
okay, but if you're acting like Arsenal blood is with the national team, like
so that means that we're looking for be eliminated in semifinals so we can be fourth, like Arsenal.
Stop, Carlos! God, I was in a good mood now.
The Marcelo Flores, right? Everybody's been wanting to see this kid, and like I said, we're talking about it. Seeing him in the tournament, I think he's definitely talented. At the same time, keeping the pressure of what this kid needs to do. I think if he has a good game, people are already asking, let's have him already next year. I think we just love to be excited because we want to have that Mbappe. We want to have, as much as people hate Pulisic, him coming up, at 16, 17, people are already wanting to be on the national team. And, it's like people want that player for Mexico, especially when we've been losing games like that. But Carlos, what's a good performance and you'll be like, okay, what's next? Because we got qualifiers in January. If he has a great game, does he get called up?
I think that all depends on Tata. I mean, because the problem is that he needs to see how he behaves within the group right now. Whenever you have a player with so many expectations and kind of like that, profile that he's a star, he better not behave like a star, right? Because he's still like 19, 18, and he's gonna go with some of the heavyweights and compete for a spot. So to me, it's more on how he's managing orders and how he's actually, performing during practices. Like that's really where the coach really pays attention. and then he will see what happens on the field. Because what happens on the game, it can't, it's out of your control.
Yeah.
You can see things where, you know what, he was in this situation and he resolved it well. But it's not about whether he scores, he doesn't score, how the game, again, if they start losing, then maybe like how he manages that pressure of losing and comes back from it. There's a lot of things that you can't really measure, but you can measure how he behaves with you when you talk to him, when you give him an indication, when you tell him, hey, listen, I need you to do this, and then he does it. Like, to me, that's what they're really looking at in these games.
Yeah. And again, how many people are in front of him? I mean, even if he scores 2 goals, and the way it comes in, I mean, the pecking order of getting to a national team and playing in the national team, players like, Jimenez, for example, right? I mean, who did, I think, had a great game against Charlotte and wasn't called up for anything else. So it's like, I feel like there's a pecking order there. And unless this kid is like just blows by and scores 4 or 5 goals and you're like, oh my gosh, we need to have him. And at the same time, the position that he's in, it's not like an easy position to crack in the national team because he would need the ball a lot. He's not a number 9 where he's waiting for a goal. This is a person that's almost running around and creating plays. And in the national team, it'd be hard to crack. So I think if he plays, I hope he plays because then there's other rumors that he was just going to be called up to come to the bench and just hang out. So then he'd be called for Canada. And Canadian fans are already like, no worries. We already know he's going to come in January because they love to troll us Mexicans.
That's your fault, Wiso. I 100%. No. Just like even though the Chucky Lozano Chan is up for speculation about who created it, you created this tension-y dynamic with Canadian fans. That is 100% your fault. They did. They were there.
No. I thought it was really funny when I read a tweet. Was it yesterday that said, "My sources say that Marcelo Flores is not happy with the Mexican national team and is flying to London tomorrow." And I'm like, who is this person? He's a U.S. fan. Like, he's an MLS fan who just wants to start crap. I'm like, all right, let's get this out of here. Get these mentions out of here. All right, so hopefully everybody gets to play. Somebody asked really quick, is Chicharito's time is done? Yeah, I think so. I think as long as I think Tata's there for whatever happened, I think Chicharito's gone. So we'll see. Hopefully we get to see maybe someone like Arteaga. Just hopefully next year. Starting to see, but obviously this wasn't a FIFA date. So I don't really like asking predictions because we don't. I mean, the Chile's roster come out because I didn't really see anything coming out. I mean, this is a young squad. Even if we lose this game, as long as the players came in, I think for example, for that Ecuador match, it was a good game, and we saw great players coming out of it. The scoreline, aside from being a crazy game and there was a lot of goals, it really didn't matter, going forward. So to me, as long as these players get submit, if Marcelo gets playing time, we're good. He's ours. I think we're okay. But at the same time, just a good showing.
And it's weird because you also need to think like this team not playing together for like how much they practice, a week, maybe.
Yeah.
I think the fact that they practice for a week compared to what happened to the team against Ecuador, they only practiced for 3 days.
Yeah.
These will be a little more cohesive, but you're really looking at how some of the players that usually don't get called up are gonna measure. I mean, I'm seeing some of the names that were called out last time, like Eric Lira, Ferni Beltran, Santi Jimenez played, Antuna played. Most likely, we'll see a lot of those players. Some of others are not going to be there, like Angulo's obviously not going to be there because he's playing the final. Osvaldo Rodriguez, he got that red card against Leon with Leon, and same as Davian Ramirez, and they have to play with Leon, and the other one could not play, but will probably be there. So there will be changes there, but also there's a big core of players that probably get the start that already played together, right? Mm-hmm. Like having Cordova maybe start with Beltran and Antuna, like some of those players. So to me, it's just how we're going to see them individually and how do they behave in those conditions with the game, because cohesiveness, like it's really hard to ask for that for a team that,
has never played.
Especially when you have like Aldames and Marcelo that never played at that level or even met these guys before. Like they've never say hi to each other before they arrived together 3 days ago.
What's your thought on Galdames?
My thought on Galdames, again, I think like because we have such a short pool of players in general, the more players that we can get, the better, because that keeps competition open. That also puts pressure on players so they don't get complacent. Like there are certain positions in national team that I feel that they're not at the proper level right now, but there's nobody else.
Yeah.
So if you have somebody behind them, regardless who it is, that it's knocking on the door and saying like, hey, like you see right now with Wiso Reyes that is doing so well with Atlas. You see with the other Reyes from America, it's like, hey, make sure that you don't sleep because I might take your job. That's to me what makes a good national team.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see what comes through. Again, we don't really do predictions. We'll see how it goes through. I'll be traveling over there mañana. I'm excited to see the new Austin
Q2 stadium.
Yeah, the Q2 stadium. So that should be cool, and hopefully we get to see some cool goals, and that'll be the national team said officially it's our last match because I'm a little worried that they might squeeze another one after. So I was like, okay, we're okay. All right, yeah. So they said today our last match of the year, whatever. All right, cool. Thanks for making it official. Porque a veces, they gotta. I could see one, the 27th versus Iceland.
The 27th.
All right. Let's talk Liguilla. And before we do that, Amy, talk a little Liguilla March Madness.
Because you're in the final.
Wait, first, before we switch gears, Carlos, what in a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are we to have Kadekao join us on?
No, it's very he left the door open. He left the door open, and again, this is not on Cade. Cade has been asked at least 3 times in the past 3-4 months what he thinks about playing for the national team, and he said he got the door open, but then this tournament that Marcelo Flores just won, right? He was playing against Cade Cowell, so he got called. The U.S. took notice of that. They've been calling him. They actually calling. I think they're calling him to the U.S. national team is playing right now. He's with them. He's on the senior camp. So it's very unlikely. It's just nobody in Mexico ever came and talked to him or really paid attention to what he was doing. And he has a lot of gaps. I mean, his physique is really impressive. Like, I still don't think they say, oh, he's 18 years old. I'm like, he's lying. He's like 27. I'm just kidding. I love Cade, but he's like,
my best description of Cade was somebody said that he was like a teen movies villain. Like,
yes,
he's just super tall and handsome.
Especially now that when he dyed his hair blonde, he made it even worse. But yeah, it's like he's just so big and strong and fast, and you're like, that is impressive. But at the end of the day, and I talked to Matias Almeida about this, like, he can't hit the ball. He has problems on his first touch. Like, there's a lot of things that Cade still needs to grow into. And when you don't have a fully fledged player, you're not going to do that in the national team. So he still needs a lot of time to work with Matias, and he needs to have a coach like that, because if Matias decides in December of next year that he's going to leave a 20-year player that is not fully developed, and it all depends on who's going to come and how he treats him and what he teaches him. Yeah. So to me, that's one of the reasons why we're not looking at Cade Cowell in that sense.
Well, we're not going to have a cow.
But I thought he doesn't have the passport for him to play.
That too, because the other thing, this is a conversation that happened. Somebody was telling me about, like, what did I think about having Cade Cowell in Chivas, and he actually can't play for Chivas.
Yeah, he can't play
because his parents are actually not Mexican.
Yeah, his maternal grandpa.
Correct.
Yeah, maternal grandfather, grandma is Mexican. The parents don't have it. So they can't apply. So I don't think he can even.
They can't apply. I mean, technically, the only way Cade Cowell could play for Chivas is if his parents, one of them, doesn't matter which, decided that said, well, his mom in this case, his mom was like, I'm going to get my Mexican passport,
right?
And you're going to play for the national team. If he moved to the U20 of Mexico and his mom got the passport, then he could play for Chivas.
Yeah.
And that would be the only scenario where he could.
Yeah, his parents need to become Mexican before he can even play. So I was like, all right, yeah. Like, let's worry about the players that can't. Somebody also said, I think we should start worrying about Jonathan Gomez. He got called up for the U.S. men's national team. Right.
Again, there's just so many kids that are Mexican American that are on the pool that, I feel like we're having this fight where not every single one of them is that talented for us to have that fight. And again, this is nothing against them. I think they're great players, but when you're talking about like national team caliber, if you want to steal every single one of them, like I said, you want to make your pool better and you want to make your pool bigger, but also you can't put that much pressure on things that, you know, it will just take resources and time when you can't really call every single one of them.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
your scouting should be a little more like Richie Ledesma, for example, is a player that I will argue you could, you know, try to convince. For example, he's played very little with the U.S. national team. He could make the one-time switch. He plays for PSV Eindhoven. He actually starts with the team. You know, that's a player you might want to reel in, but some others, you know, it'll be great, but if they choose not to, it's also not the end of the world.
I think at the same time, this conversation is like, hey, let's get everybody that's young that could be up and coming, and you know, and cap time, so then they can't. It's like, you know, here in I felt like the U.S. was doing that for a little bit just to make sure to see if there's any opportunities, and I feel that's bad for the player. So of course these players are going to say, hey, I'm going to keep my options open. Hey, I want to play for this person, and they'll start seeing it when they go to youth camps, right? So then those one-time switch comes in, just like you saw Julian. So yeah, give them time, and we'll see. And if they don't, oh well, we're all happy for Pepe. You know, he didn't pick Mexico, but we'll see Mexican American. Are we? No, I'm saying like it's not like we hate the guy, right? It's not like, oh, you didn't. There are some messages that people went on there, but he scores. It's kind of cool. Like, hey, look, it's a Mexican American that's scoring. It gives you a little bit at least on that.
To the Mexicans doing Americans' job. Yeah,
I guess this is really hard because now that I think about it, I mean, I'm here like repping this, right? Because that's actually what I were. But I think about it, and we've talked about this. I'm having a kid not to like in the near future.
Yeah.
The chances for him playing for Mexico are a little slimmer. I mean, I might have some connections that could potentially see him, but if the U.S. calls him, I'm gonna be all in. Like,
yeah.
At the end of the day, it's those opportunities, you have to take them, and you can't really put your national feelings in the line. Like,
you absolutely can. No, you absolutely can, Carlos. As a parent, I can 100%. As a fellow parent, I can say you could absolutely put your.
No, I think because I even thought about it when I moved here. Like, if there was, I talked to my dad about it. If they had been an opportunity for me to like be even considered on the national pool for the U.S., I would have taken it. Like, unless you're that good that you have everybody coming to you and you can be like, so who am I gonna pick? But that player is really like, how many of those really exist?
Yeah, no, but that's you because you're actually a professional player, Carlos. So like you can have that opportunity, right? In the only sport that I was really good at, and I was like, cool. If the U.S. ever brought me to the team in the Olympics, I'd be like, yeah, heck yeah, like I have no problem. Soccer is a little. I cried in 2002 with the national team.
What sport was that you actually had?
We're not going to talk about it.
Again, I just
fun of me. You're gonna make fun of me.
I already know. I just want you to tell the audience.
I said if I could, you know.
But what sport was it?
Bowling. It was bowling.
It was absolutely not bowling. Whoever finds it, go ahead and tag me. If you figure it out, I will tell you yes in a private message. Okay. Anyway, I will also send you photos of him.
Synchronized swimming. Anyway, all right. Let's so the national team, last game, we'll see who plays, how many get called. It'd be interesting because the qualifiers are going to come up in January. We have 3 games coming up in January into February, very important games, away and 2 at home. The home ones against with no fans. Tata loses the one in Jamaica, and here we go. You know, this is going to be a very important game. It's interesting to see how many of these players that get called up to the national team, you know, replacing some of the players. I asked, for example, Salcedo had an amazing, I think, Liguilla. You know, is he ready to be back on the national team? An interview said that, you know, he wishes to be back. He knew he was wrong and there was coaching decisions, but at the end of the day, he wants to play for the national team. I thought he had a great Liguilla. And having, you know, we were look at our defense for the last 2 games with players being injured and being out. Having a healthy Salcedo that's doing well is one of our best defenders on the national team. But I get it. People want new faces. We'll see that. I can't wait for Angulo too. I think Tata really likes him. So we'll see. We'll see Angulo, Johan, Cesar Montes. And if Salcedo can come back and have that leadership and not be so.
To me, I really like that. If he could, I mean, it's 2 lefties, which is strange, but having Angulo and Johan together, like in the Olympics, I wouldn't mind just having that. In
that Charlotte game, Tata really, really liked Angulo from what I was told. All right, let's talk Liguilla for all the craziness. Oh, wait. Our madness. Amy? Liguilla madness. Tell us. Who's in? You're in.
So
You're in the final.
I did what Leon did in the second leg. I came out and I got 4 out of a possible 6 points to turn it around and secure my spot in the final over Tigres English. That's right. I went ahead and also defeated Tigres 5-3. So I've made my way into the final. Wiso, however, like Pumas, just couldn't get one at the final end of the match. And Hercules Gomez went ahead and Alo Atlas, as he put it, has secured his place in the Liga Madness final in his first showing in the bracket. So it'll be me against Hercules Gomez. I will probably...
if he wins, he'll never hear the end of it. Like Herc he's a bad winner.
All it does is secure this U.S. soccer thing going on this year that's weird and everything. But
US soccer's beating Mexico and everything.
Just U.S. soccer beating Mexico
Amy in the Liga Madness.
I'm not gonna share my tactics on air for him to come and review later. I just hope certain things happen so that other things can happen so that I can win. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say.
Got it. We do have a trophy. Cesar is at Cesar house, and it's
actually I got to see it in Tijuana. I mean, I stopped by Cesar's house before I headed to Tijuana for the feminine matches, and it's very, very nice. I really like it.
We get to actually mail it to you. So if you win, or we mail it to Herc, and he'll never give it back to us.
Well, why would he give it back to us?
Oh, isn't that it's a trophy for every year?
Yeah, he gets to keep
That's not the same trophy.
Oh, no. I got my retro. I don't have any trophies. He has to mail it to you.
Okay. All right. Fine.
Yeah. You have. I think you have 3 trophies waiting for you. So.
Okay, good. I could showcase them. Liguilla.
By the way, Carlos, I'm sorry that you pulled the Chivas and were eliminated in the repechaje.
It's okay. I went with Ana Yurka, so I can live with that. And Mariano Trujillo. So all the 3 of us got eliminated.
That's true. Herc was the only big time name that advanced to Liguilla. So
these guys know. All right. I know we have time. Obviously, León versus Atlas, and we have here Jueves 9 de Diciembre, as you can see, and the new camp in León, and La Vuelta in Jalisco, which is going to be madness. Already hearing some news of some pretty bad stuff that happened with La Taquilla and Revendedores over there in Jalisco. Well, with some shots being fired, just the craziness. But really quick, the 2 teams that are there, Carlos. I know that there's some calls, the red cards, if there was a penalty or not. But how fair is it to say that people were talking about these teams that are coming in, the panzazo from a repechaje? But to me, I'll take it because I'm a León fan. But Atlas León, a pretty exciting final. The 2 best teams, I would say.
Not only that, but I think if you really look at the numbers, the times that a number 8, number 9, and especially, lately it hasn't even happened. But the fact that like a number 8 played Liguilla and made it all the way to the final and won it was very slim. I think
León was the last one.
The last time I actually made the exercise of like going through the numbers and looking at it. The position that won the most tournaments was 3rd. So if you qualify for Liguilla since 1996 in 3rd or 4th place, they made the final like 27% of the time, and 3rd places were the most winning place in Liguilla. Then you have 2nd places and 1st places. So it's kind of like if the first 3 of any tournament are always winning, does it really matter how many teams you have? The problem is, to me, the problem with the repechaje is not the actual repechaje, because as we see, it kind of weeds out itself, and you have the best teams continue to be the best teams and make it to the final. The problem is that it makes the regular season uninteresting, because you can have a team like Pumas who has a horrible season and plays like 8-9 games horribly and still makes it. To me, that's kind of like where that comes in. Like you can only win, you need to win 5 games in the whole tournament to make it. But also the tournament's really short, because when I think about like, when you think about it, they're like, oh, I'd much rather. I'm like, so let's say, as an example, we have a long tournament like in Europe and you have 38 games. Will you really sustain the pain of watching 38 weeks of the same level of soccer that we have in Mexico on the regular season?
Would it be the same level of soccer for
It
38
would.
weeks?
It would, because
I have no hope. It would absolutely be.
it would be, because the problem is, if you have a team like America this season, or León, or Atlas, and they start taking off, so then what are you playing for? If I'm the 10th place and there's no relegation and there's nothing for me to compete for the 4th place.
But things precede certain things from happening. So like in theory, if you had a 38 week system, you wouldn't necessarily ever get rid of Pro Rel. In theory.
But the thing is, in practice, and it happens in the European leagues, because a lot of people, it's a lot more interesting. No, when you watch the Spanish league, you're watching Real Madrid and Barcelona on the weekend. You don't watch Malaga against Sevilla or Malaga and Rayo Vallecano.
We want to apologize to our Malaga, Mexico.
I watch Real Betis games every weekend.
But you watch Real Betis because the Mexicans are in there.
We apologize to any Malaga fan listeners that we have.
No, but it's true. I'm talking about outsiders.
I mean, you can make the exact same argument in a way right now, right? With what we're having with the Liga MX Femenil is like at some point we're going to get redundant where why are we playing it? But I mean, that's still a Liguilla system. We're not in a 38-week system.
To me, it's a little, but for example, like that's why the Premier League tends to be a little more exciting, because you got the six top teams is at least 6 of them. But when Brighton is playing against Bournemouth, it gets to like, why are they playing for it? And it really takes the team.
Hey, they score some bangers every now and then.
Well, that's what
I really thought you said Boromir. I was like, are you just making up?
Bournemouth. But the problem in Mexico is that teams are not going to do that, because to me, that's the same thing. It's like, that's why Europe is more exciting, because they kind of have the relegation, they have the spots in Europe. If you end up higher, you get some, there's financial incentives. In Mexico, it's really just to see who's the champion. We're going to see the same. And then on the other hand, you cannot say like, oh, it's horrible, but it's like, it's only 17 weeks. So if you really start slow and you don't win 5 games, all of a sudden you say like, oh, what a mediocre tournament they had. It's like, they literally just play bad for 5 games out of 17. It's just that it feels like it was forever. But I really enjoy the fact that, the second and the third team are there. I'm obviously, as a Pumas fan, was a little heartbroken. And the fact that they could even make it to the semifinal was like, wait, are they really going to play a final? Then they scored yesterday, and it's like, are they really going to play León again in a year with this team? Like, what is this? But at the end of the day, I'm really excited. It's the second and third, and the Liguilla game has been exciting. I mean, yesterday, even with all the madness that happened in the match, I still think it was exciting.
Was it a penal to you guys?
I think it was.
Yes. I say yes. Yes.
I mean that's what VAR is for, and I'm just kind of like, well, I think we're all seeing it.
I mean, Carlos had a good.
Make a case that maybe he was jumping out, but that's what it's for. It's not necessarily intentional or not.
Because you had a good explanation, didn't you, Carlos?
You said there, and you made a choice
in real time. That's the
real time. There's no way.
The thing is that you have to do it in real time, and the problem is that FIFA, and this I learned this very recently. They took intentionality out of the rule book. So the FAB completely took intentionality is out the window. It's like, let's not talk about intentionality. Now we're going to talk about how high you're placing those hands. So in this case, in my perception, and this is where it comes, because at the end of the day, it's not being perception for the referee. In my perception, that hand shouldn't have been there. He's not doing that movement to jump. He's doing that movement to avoid the forward from getting there. And then Dineno gets pushed by the other defender, ends up being on the elbow, and the elbow goes straight to the face. So to me, that's why it should have been called. But that's my perception of it. The other thing is, the hand is actually not that high. Dineno is making for that ball lower than his level on the head. He's not jumping up for that ball. He's reaching forward for that ball. So the hand, even though it's stretched out, it's not at a level where it's actually high enough for you to argue that hand went straight to the face or went up. That hand went forward.
Bro, put it on full screen.
But that's exactly where the controversy comes, and you're gonna see that one's the best one. You see, like, he's jumping for that ball, but then it's moving forward. So it's not only that the hand is going to the face; it's both going to the same place at the same time, and that's why he decided not to call it. And unfortunately, because of how the rule book is, that is also correct. But he also could have said, listen, he's actually reaching out, because what's weird about this rule, and that's what's so weird about soccer, if that ball hits the hand, then it's a handball.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if it doesn't hit this, it hits his pure hand. Then he has to call it.
If he hadn't hit the player,
Even if
or if he hit the player and the ball end up hitting the hand, that'll be in a handball because according to the rule book, the hand's extended and it's a handball. So it's weird. I would have called it. I would have called it, but on the rule book, it's actually not incorrect to not call it.
Okay, at the end of the day, Pumas didn't deserve to be in the final. Like, let's.
But
I get it.
But again, if that had been blatant, I get that part. But if that had, because this is not, to me, it's not blatant. It's not that blatant. But if it had been a blatant penalty, you can't argue that because then you're actually taking the possibility away. And even though they didn't deserve it, they played well enough at least the end of the season and the Liguilla to deserve it.
True.
So I think that argument is just as good as the one of the handball.
It's funny because I go, all right, like it's hard taking who you want to go through because I like, all right, if that was Leon on the Puma side, I'd be so mad. That's a penalty kick, right? And then I'm like, but if that wasn't Leon, I'd be like, no, I could totally see the ref not calling it. Like, that was
I just gotta one up on that because I'm a Pumas fan. I'm still saying that.
Yeah, so we'll see.
I mean, I wouldn't argue that Pumas didn't deserve, though. I mean, because I know a lot of people said like they ended up in 11th place, but you beat Cruz Azul, you beat America.
No,
at that point, you also.
I'm not talking about where they're at. I'm talking about Atlas was better in that game.
Oh yeah,
and Atlas was better in the game in the way they eat at them in. That's when I'm like, it's not like, oh my gosh, they were, playing
for stretches they are, but that's what's horrible and great about sports,
football.
Right?
Yeah,
like. They were bad for those 15 minutes.
We know.
And Pumas almost brought it back.
We know as Mexico fans.
Yeah, I watched Arsenal lose to Everton today. I know. I know.
As we saw. All right. Well, what happened? What are the predictions? King gana?
Wait, what about Leon versus Tigres? We didn't talk about that game.
We didn't talk about that. I was so shocked.
MVP.
I was so shocked that that Leon was hanging on in the first game. I was like, oh my gosh, Tigres should have been scoring 3. Then they came back and in Tigres Gignac fashion at the end and scored that goal, which I would have gone through because I said a 1-1 for that game because I was like, there's something that Leon has against Tigres. If I feel like every time they face him in Liguilla, it's psychological almost. Gignac just gets in the faces. But what happened? Leon going through. Obviously, there's fights and what's happening, but I still think, and I guess I go to you guys, taking Gignac off, and I think Pio Herrera said because of cards, right, that he was taking him off, but taking Gignac off, even with, one eye, you still put Gignac in there. When I saw him, I'm like, wow, Piojo's really doing this. But I guess this is where Piojo becomes a savior if he takes him off and they score, or, he's the villain and, you can fault his decisions. So, I think the best team is in the Liguilla again. In the final, but Tigres was definitely in the running.
I mean, it was pretty even. I think, except for the first leg. I think the first leg Tigres did not.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Took advantage. But again, to me, that's still part of the sport, and it had nothing to do with how Piojo set it up, or sometimes execution isn't there. And then on the decisions for the second leg, every time I analyze that, I always say like, it's really easy to criticize with the newspaper the next day.
Yeah.
Hindsight's always 20/20, and to say like, oh, it didn't work. Yeah, but if it had worked, you wouldn't have it.
Exactly.
So yes, you could argue that you should not, as a general rule, take out your best player for a card. It's better to risk it and secure the win. But if it works out, then
but not only it took him out,
that was a masterful move.
Exactly. Not only did he take out, he went super defensive. I mean, there's already a line of 5 with 3. It's like he knew in Piojo's style, he knew what he wanted to accomplish to save that score. And but you have players like Mena, you have players, you have Leon, who's going to continue to go at home too.
And it was also the mistakes that they did, especially in the ball coming out, because I think both times it both came from a play where they lost concentration, and that to me is a very Piojo Herrera problem. Because the first one, I think the goal comes from Victor Davila falling on the ground for a penalty. They don't give it, and then kind of Tigres slept on, and that's how they recovered the ball and gave it to Mena. And then on the second one, there's a clash against between Davila and Carlos Salcedo. And Carlos Salcedo decides to stay on the ground like he's injured. And by the time he took to get up and come back, that's when that ball comes on that shot that was deflected and ended up being on the middle, and they were able to get the cross off it. Yeah. So to me, it's those lapses also that Tigres sometimes has. And I think they were a little less prominent with Del Tuca Ferretti. I think Del Tuca, being the kind of coach he is, will probably scream at you a lot harder for those kind of things. So they tend to do it. But that's kind of the lapses that sometimes happens, and it happens to these players. To me, that's a very Carlos Salcedo play. He gives you 100 awesome plays, and then he has a lapse like that. And unfortunately, because he's a central defender, he goes straight to the score.
It goes to that. All right. I know we're already past our prime. What happens? ¿Quién gana? 70 years. The Atlas fans, like Amy said, could take a... What was that, in color joke? What did you say?
Oh, yeah. That was off the air, though. I said maybe Atlas will finally take a championship photo in color for the first time.
Ooh, that's hard. That's hard. There's a lot of Atlas fans, man. They're so passionate, and there's a ton of Atlas fans. So that yesterday at the Jalisco, I was like, wow, before and after, it's kind of crazy. And then Leon, too. Leon with the stadium. So 70 years for Atlas, or is Leon becoming the Tigres of this?
Okay,
this
calm down. First of all, relax.
hey, I'm saying Leon gets the win. I think that's 9, right? That's
Leon's won a Leagues Cup. Tigres still hasn't. So.
9 stars.
Count them. Count them.
I think it ties Cruz Azul or beats Cruz Azul. No, I think it's
tied.
Up there.
No,
you tie it.
You tie it.
You tie it, or
yeah.
It takes out Toluca. Right?
No, Toluca has 10.
Dang it.
Who has the most trophies?
America has 13. Chivas has 12. Toluca has 10. Cruz Azul has 9. Count. And in this case, Leon will have 9. And that will be just like Tigres, because they will also have a descenso and then come back.
Yes, we have a descenso. It's tough times. So, all right, we'll take to you guys.
I'll let Amy go first.
Amy, who wins?
As being someone that fully
legs. You don't have to give us legs, right?
As someone that fully supports you all the time, every day with my unconditional love, I'm going to go ahead and say, congratulations, Atlas, on your colored photo. No, I'm just kidding. No, I think Leon actually takes it, to be honest. I'll go with Leon.
All right. Carlos, to you?
I think overall I would like Leon to take it just because of the consistency that the team has had ever since they came back from that descenso. What the Martinez has done with the team, the way they work, Ariel Holland proving that a lot of new things can actually be implemented and they work. So it's kind of like that fusion to make things work. But man, I also love chaos. And can you imagine Cruz Azul and Atlas winning championships back to back
in the same year?
No. Look, you have Carlos, you're one of those people that also follows MLS. So I'm going to say this. No, we're going to allow NYCFC to do the chaos part and win the MLS Cup for the first time. No, don't give it to Portland. I don't want to see Portland win another trophy. No, you let them do the chaos and then you let them.
NYFC is barely a team. What are you talking about? Manchester City little.
Why are you hijacking this?
Because he was about to say he doesn't want your team to win. See, I did you a favor.
I said I want Leon to win.
RSL to
but
win.
You also said that you want.
Because that's also
you never
chaos.
My boyhood club RSL.
Are you kidding me? Leon, Cruz Azul and Atlas back to back.
That's crazy. Back to back.
It's not only them winning. Back to back.
I know.
But Atlas was in a final like 22 years ago. 22 years? I don't even remember that.
22 years ago, Atlas was the last final with that golden generation with Cepeda, Osorno, Mario Mendez, Diego Coca.
Nicholas Murray said 70 years. That's even older than me. That's older than everybody. I don't think anybody remembers that.
I know a sports commentator that could tell you that Atlas win.
I was there.
Jose Ramon? No?
I think Jose Ramon was probably like 3, 4 when that happened.
Up there. I was like, anybody remember a sports commentator? That'd be kind of crazy. You give him props.
You know who's probably somebody who saw it, and I'm gonna take an opportunity to send a shout out to him. El Pato Baeza, who is a player from Necaxa from the 60s. He played that night that Necaxa beat Santos de Brazil in the Estadio against Pelé. I talked to him today. It's his birthday. He happens to be my godfather too. and he probably saw Atlas win. I think because he turned 84 today. So I'm like, you were 14 years old. You're almost coming up through the ranks of the Necaxa when that happened. So that's the only person I know that actually saw Atlas win.
My mom's grandfather, so my great grandfather, he's since passed away for a very long time. He was an Atlas fan, so that is the only past person.
I go, but was he an Atlas fan back then?
No, yeah, he was always an Atlas. So that's the only thing where I go, if there's like something that will be nice about Atlas winning, it'll be wherever he exists in the universe with the particles, he might
obviously
enjoy
that. I obviously want Leon to win because Leon my team. But Atlas wins, I'm like, cool. Like it's finally happened.
Would anybody besides if you're a Chivas fan?
Chivas fans.
Chivas fans will be the only people that will actually really be mad if Atlas wins, right?
Yeah.
Nobody else will do.
The memes.
Or maybe some
memes
Pumas
out there.
fans. Maybe some Pumas fans that are like, no, we don't want Atlas to win. Nobody.
I've seen it. I've seen a general consensus from Pumas fans. They're like, you won fair and square. Like you know. You can
Pumas we got there as the 11th place. Like it was like we overachieved a lot. that was severe overachieving, and they didn't even beat him. Yeah. They tied them and they won because they were better during the regular season.
I want if Leon wins, I want the text from my aunt, Amy, the one that we spend and she gave us food. She sends me, hey,
the lovely wiener dog.
Do you know that Leon is getting to the final? I'm like, yeah. She's gonna send me, hey, Leon just won, just to let you know. So hopefully that happens. All right, well, we'll see. I think it's gonna be tough, especially the last leg. I think Julio Furch. So it's definitely up in the air. I think they both could win. Hopefully, obviously, I want Leon to win. But if Atlas does win, I think I'd be very happy for Liga MX to say that a team like that, 70 years in the making, and all the Atlas fans are going to surpass all the Cruz Azul fans that somehow became. I'm telling you, Atlas, I think, has more fans than like a lot of the teams, and they're just going to come up. You're going to see flags everywhere. Like we saw Cruz Azul in the year, and like Cruz Azul fans, I think Atlas fans, there's a lot more everywhere.
And it's crazy because Atlas or Grupo Orlegui in general, they literally just opened 2 new offices in the U.S. Mm-hmm. They moved one to LA, the other one's in Texas, and part of that is cashing in the fact that there's so many Atlas fans. This will be their PR perfect move. Dream. Like you just started, and it's like, and by the way, ta-da!
yeah, Santos final right, and then also Atlas. So. Cool. We'll see. It's a good win for Charlie Football. Help us out with the sponsors, so it's cool. We'll see that. We'll put my Charlie glasses on.
Team Charlie.
They gave me Team Charlie because they're gonna win. All right. Thank you so much for everybody jumping on. Carlos, one more time, thank you for joining us, and we'll see what happens in this game and Liguilla. We're doing the aguardados. Amy, are we gonna do the?
You guys tell me.
Sixth annual aguardados.
We'll release it.
The awards show that we have. Cesar had a writing assignment he couldn't jump on, so he'll hopefully be on next week. And
that grind.
He's got that grind now. He's got the ESPN job. Adriana at work, and we'll see. Carlos, once again, thank you for joining.
Absolutely, anytime.
Amy, don't yell at me. I think I did okay today, so we are good to go. Hasta la próxima, everybody. We're ending